Alright, so today is June 5th, and I've been working on finishing up the bottom planking here. And as you can see, I pretty much got it done. I got one little spot up here that I'm going to have to cut some pieces to fit in there and glue them in. But otherwise, you know, structurally, it's all done up. That part there is just going to be to get it to smooth out. But I've got 2 layers in here now. I had to laminate these starting right here, I guess. So these here forward now are all laminated and glued in place. What I did was I put the first layer in, glued them down, glued them in place, put some temporary screws in, kind of like these, to hold them in place. And once the epoxy was set, I pulled those screws out and then cut the next layer, temporarily fixing them in place as I went, and then taking all of them off and then gluing them, the new ones in, the second layer in. And I coated both the outside layer of the first layer and the inside of the second layer in liquid epoxy. And then I put thickened epoxy on it, so this should be nice and robust. What I also did was I staggered them just a little bit. I put a little strip in here, so then I was overlapping. You can see it here, probably. There's a full board here, then a short one here. So these next ones going on now are overlapped. I also sanded that with some coarse, like 40 grit sandpaper, and my more aggressive sander, 6-inch Bosch sander. So that took down any high spots, you know, between like where the boards met, and also roughed up the surface a little bit for accepting the epoxy a little better. And it went just fine. No issues really at all. Plenty of screws to hold it in place. I have to pull those out, and I'll put some final fixings in, the regular galvanized fixings in, once this second layer is completely cured. And I'll have a few holes to fill, but that's not a really big issue. I mean, there's plenty of holes to fill anyway, but and that'll probably all just be thickened epoxy, I would guess, because it really doesn't matter, because this is all getting covered in plywood. But you can kind of see the curvature, I think, maybe even on the camera you can see how it sweeps. You know, it starts more upright and then it kind of sweeps and then goes back wider. Yeah, it's actually kind of a pretty curve. I kind of like that. But anyway, so that's done. It took forever to do it, but of course I had to cut all these pieces out and all the angles in the bottom of these, and then some of these had to be curved, and I used a combination of things to do that. And then of course I had a lot of grinding to do on the keel to get the rabbet more or less right. And I got it, you know, it's just about perfect here. The wood meets the rabbet just about perfectly, which isn't perfect. It should actually have a little bit of a reveal like back here, so when the plywood goes on, the plywood can stop there, but that really doesn't matter. What I'll do when that plywood goes on here, I will probably taper the edge of the plywood just a little bit so it lays down on there, and then it's going to get a epoxy fillet on it, so it won't really matter one way or the other. But it should be nice and strong. It should be yeah, it even already sounds nice and strong. It sounds just as strong, if not stronger, than the solid 2x6s in here. But other than that, I've been doing a few other little things. I've been stuffing some of my ballast in here, and it looks like for the most part I'm going to be able to get my I don't know how well you can see that it's black bags in a dark hole there, but I've got 4 of these 50-pound bags in there, and when I start planking here, I'm going to try to shove another one up in there. Yeah, we'll see how that goes, but that would give me 250 pounds per bay. Now, not every bay that's going to work. This one here is going to be the house batteries, and I only got 2 bags in there. So, but then of course we got the the added weight down lower of the house battery. Or, I'm sorry, actually that's the start battery on one side and the water heater on the other. This is the house battery here. So, yeah, we got some extra weight down relatively low, below the water line at least, in those. And I've also been doing some more wiring. I've been running a couple more circuits. I got a couple outlets wired in the engine room, and put another one in. And yeah, a few other little odds and ends there, but got a DC wire run back there into the engine room, which will need a couple circuits, DC circuits back there, some lights in the engine room. The water pump is hooked up to the 12-volt system, and the fuel pump will need to be, the fuel transfer pump will need to be a system wired in for that. But yeah, I got my bilge hose. I think I showed you that. I got that hooked up and at least run up there. I don't have it, obviously, through hulls in it yet because I don't have the hull finished, but that'll happen. So yeah, we're getting closer to being able to start working on the other side now. This forward part of the boat took me a lot longer than I ever expected. This stuff in here was a lot of grinding, a lot of sanding, and then cutting all these boards to fit, and then 2 layers of them, no less. But now we pretty much got this side planked up. I did a little testing here. This edge sticks out, and this needs to be flush with the top here. So this is going to need to be cut off at the same line as what the top planking is. And I started running my planer on here just out of curiosity, and I had it set fairly light, not taking a whole lot of material off, and it was working fine. And then I set it a little more aggressive, and it started to give me some tear out on the edges here. So I don't know. I think before I try to do this full time, I'm going to put new blades in the planer, and then knock it back a little bit so it's not trying to cut so deep. It seemed to be working all right when I was cutting shallower. I didn't have any chip out at all. But I got a lot of material to remove here, and if that doesn't work, I could try I could use the cut saw probably here too. But I think maybe that Arbortech for the grinder, for the angle grinder, would probably do this. I don't know if we'd get chip out with that or not. That may have been a case where I maybe should have let some epoxy run up into these edges to secure them. Somebody wants attention. But we'll see how it goes one way or another. We'll get it done. I mean, even if you had to sand it down, that'd be a lot of sanding, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, and maybe I should have just left these long like I did. I started leaving a couple inches back here, thinking I could just take a saw blade up here and cut those off, like a Sawzall or something, and then just, you know, try to get within a 1/4 inch or whatever of it, and then sand it down or whatever to the final, or plane it down to the final dimensions there. But I don't know. I thought later on then maybe this would be easier, just and I could just take the plane and knock it down. I hope that works. I hope the plane does work all right. But we'll see. I'll maybe start on that a little bit here again too. But I got to get my other planking material moved in here. As you can see, I almost got my stack of, got three left over. So I will have a few extra 2x6s in addition to the rejects that I had. What have I got here? 8, 9 of them that I rejected. I have to find something to build out of these rejected ones I didn't want to use for bottom planking. But I got another batch, identical batch to what I started out with, so I should have some extras for running. I don't have any more rejects than I had with this first batch. But anyway, that'll be my update for today, June 4th, 2023.